Hello and welcome back to the channel. I never expected any of this to happen, but here we are, about to do something I've been wanting to do on this channel. This time we are reviewing what it's like to go to a Canucks game using transit. First things first, massive shout out to TransLink for hooking us up with the free tickets to the game. This was part of a contest run in a Facebook group which I will discuss later. I've been planning to attend at least one game this season, but back then the team was tanking along with the crowd restrictions. So being a Canucks fan myself, I will also do a quick summary about the team in this video as well. Second of all, it gets really loud, so I'll be talking over music for most of the video. In any case, let's get this started. We get to Scott Road at around 5:20 in order to snag an arrival downtown at 6 o'clock. Scott Road is the second biggest park and ride in Metro Vancouver with almost 1,500 parking stalls. Now I was carpooling with a buddy of mine from Fraser Heights and he was surprised at how cheap it was compared to parking downtown for the game. As for fares, it costs a total of $7.05 to account for a 3-zone ticket into Vancouver with stored value and a 1-zone ticket back to Surrey owing to fare zone times. So the total for transportation from paying for parking to transit fares is $10.05. And I guess some of the things we're actually saving on is time finding parking, dealing with reckless drivers, and paying for gas money. In any case, our train arrives and we're on our way to downtown. It's not too crowded and the journey should take around 35 minutes to Stadium Station on the Expo line. We're actually traveling against the peak flow of people heading back to Surrey after working downtown or in Burnaby or in New Westminster. Another thing too is that the arrival times for people going in to see the game are kind of more relaxed as you have most people looking to catch a meal somewhere before the game and avoid overpaying for pizzas and burgers inside the arena. My one concern in particular was whether or not we would beat the scheduled track maintenance heading back east because the scheduled start time was actually really close to the end of the game. Thankfully, we get to downtown on time and after catching a burger near the station entrance, it's time to head to the game. The Canucks play the Ottawa Senators in a must-win game for the Canucks. Now, being out of playoff contention, the Senators are just looking to get experience for their young guys and screw around with the contending team. But for the Canucks, the race is on for that last spot in the Pacific. The LA Kings have an easy schedule heading into their last 5 games, while Dallas, Vegas, and Nashville are also a couple wins ahead in the standings, so it's really up to the Canucks to climb their way back into that last wildcard spot. Both teams are in the second half of a back-to-back. With Yaroslav Halak in net, Demko gets a well-deserved night off. Now I'm convinced that the game is sponsored by TransLink, as from the other crowd members I've talked to, a few have said that the tickets were free from a sponsored contest. Some have even spotted advertisements being played in the building. And this aligns with a recent ad campaign by the transit company, convincing people to take transit to and from the game. It's been more than 2 years since my last game, so with the Larshiders controlling the crowd, it's time to sit back and watch the boys. Excuse my reactions.
Last minute of play in overtime.
So strong start, but we only got 1 of 2 points. But of all players, it's Adam freaking Gaudette, the ex-Canuck, putting our dagger to our season. It was still very nice to experience a full house after so long, and with the Larshiders in the crowd, I definitely enjoyed the energy they displayed. Note that it's around 9:40 p.m. right now, which means that 2 hours and 40 minutes have passed since the game started at 7. Now having a look at the standings, yeah, it isn't looking too good. Probably by the time I'm posting this, the Canucks are out of playoff contention. Well, whatever. Now this is the main part which is often discussed in transit forums and Twitter. The shootout had a significant impact on how this journey heading back east will play out. First is that we ended 20 minutes later than a normal game after all the stoppages in play. So for those trying to catch late evening buses, it's crucial to keep track of time, especially for those catching those infrequent buses that come once or twice an hour come 10 or 11 o'clock. The next thing I want to say is that it's kinda similar to what it's like to win the game. People stay until that last horn, unlike when the team is 4 goals back late in the third period, and then you have people kinda trickling out early. So you have all these people heading out at once, and that's gonna cause congestion at all the exits. However, this doesn't even come anywhere close to some events at the neighboring BC Place Stadium, which will have more people attending than Rogers Arena. So these major concerts such as Elton John and The Weeknd will hands down have a full house with more than 50,000 attendees. Also, let's be honest, the BC Lions haven't been too great as of late. The last time an attendance anywhere close to 50,000 for a BC Lions game was recorded was the 99th Grey Cup in 2011. So generally speaking, it's rare within the year to have more than 25, 30, or even 40,000 spectators spread across the two stadiums. Instead, my pick for number 3 is that the position of the gates and the arena entrances definitely has a factor in slowing down people exiting the building. In the context of Rogers Arena, those who are assigned to sit near gate number 3 will be among the first to leave compared to those who are assigned to sit in the lower bowl farthest away from the station entrance, where for example, those assigned to sit where gate number 8 is. So at gates number 3 and number 10, the station entrance is right there, while from gate 8, it's a 5 to 10 minute walk as everyone is walking in circles trying to find the closest exit. We walk past the lineup for the ticket vending machines and straight to the downstairs entrance to Stadium Station. Now just a quick tip for people taking transit after the game. Buy the tickets from the ticket vending machine before entering the arena. They are still valid for the day as long as they aren't tapped. That 90 minutes begins once they are tapped, so make sure you're keeping track between which tickets are used and which ones aren't. So I don't know why people are blaming the transit agency for not having enough ticket machines when it's entirely possible to buy the return tickets before the game. Now looking at the schedule, it looks like there are trains every 4 to 5 minutes in either direction, translating to every 10 minutes on each branch of the Expo line. We are still 40 minutes away from track maintenance, which is a good sign. Now considering that each train has enough space for 500 people, that's about 1/6 of the arena taking SkyTrain in 15 minutes. But while considering people heading out to each branch, that number could be closer to 1/7 or 1/8 leaving by SkyTrain every 15 minutes. We leave for Waterfront instead of going to Surrey, just to simulate getting a seat heading back east and for observational reasons. This train is jam-packed for people heading out to the Canada Line and C-Bus. Waterfront is a more centralized location for Canada Line users, so it's best to transfer there if you're headed that way. But for Waterfront, it's quiet as trains wait here to leave according to the schedule and to keep the frequency balanced. We reposition and are now on track 2, and we leave exactly at 10:10. So basically we spent 20 minutes allowing a bit of the crowd to disperse onto the earlier trains. Now it's very specific, but let's have a look at all the other possible connections we can make on this particular trip past Stadium Station. So just past 10 p.m, you don't really have many options even as you make your way past Nanaimo. And that kind of begs the question, who specifically is able to travel out to Canucks games using transit alone? I guess it's not much outside of people living on frequent routes or near SkyTrain stations. Now the third platform at Stadium has long been a point of contention for event goers in the Stadium district. As hinted at before, the crowds we are experiencing tonight are actually minimal compared to what happens on some nights when there are events at both Rogers Arena and BC Place at the same time. The two venues always look to coordinate when to hold events, but it's been extremely rare lately when the two events let out crowds at the exact same time. The main discussion point here is that there are large crowds exiting the arena at once, and it will not be much faster to open up a third platform thanks to the frequencies we saw on SkyTrain. Despite allowing more space on the platform, there is little incentive to have a full train to be waiting at the platform. There has to be a consistent interval between trains. And as we saw just now, the frequency is rather high. Trains already come frequently enough to clear the platform, so you're looking at around 400 people each direction every 3 to 5 minutes. For TransLink, another point is that elevators and escalators are very expensive. There's some doubt that TransLink would even want to allocate money for new escalators and elevators at the station. One thing I will say is that the station is due for a major renovation. After all, it is one of the original stations which opened in December 1985. I personally will support a full redo of the downstairs entrance at Stadium Station, but I will continue to stand on my position on using the third platform to reduce overcrowding. Now, there's a possibility of sending trains to the third platform by crossing them over the outbound track. Perhaps maybe these can be used as shuttles every 10 minutes heading out to Metrotown or 22nd Street. The issues with that include, but are not limited to, disrupting frequent eastbound service to slide the trains from the westbound tracks into platform 3, and timing the empty trains to slot in after the event. All in all, if you're gonna send extra trains empty to downtown and have them do short trips out to Edmonds or New Westminster, you might as well have them run in service all the way to Waterfront and back in a consistent manner. And doing this will benefit other riders and not just the spectators. One idea I would suggest is for the sports venues to allocate money for station upgrades. Any improvement for post-game transit services to improve attendance at games is certainly welcome. So having this funding trickle down to TransLink to focus on other priorities will be beneficial to a majority of transit users. Lastly, let's see how the Canucks alone might affect SkyTrain ridership. The Canucks play around 45 times a year from September to April, including preseason games. So that's half an 82-game full regular season schedule, plus 4 or 5 games in the preseason. With Mr. Coach Bruce There It Is as our bench boss, we might as well hit our playoff peak within the next year. If any of you remember 2011, it does get rowdy in downtown. And this puts up a need for extra service regardless if the team is away or at home. The big death blow for transit users is sudden death playoff overtime, at least in the earlier rounds. For those of you who don't watch hockey, this is quite different from what we just witnessed just now. I'll just put up a summary on the screen right now to save a bit of time, but case in point, these games can get super long. Now, this is only going to possibly be a problem for the first round, as when teams progress in the playoffs and advance into later rounds, I believe start times get pushed earlier to around 5 p.m. So in order for a game in the later rounds to last until midnight, a game would need to go into 3 or 4 overtimes, which is extremely unlikely. You know, just be glad we aren't somewhere like St. Louis or St. Paul, where there are playoff games starting at 8 p.m. well into the second round. But hey, there will not be a playoff overtime if your team doesn't make the playoffs. Outside the playoffs, the cost of tickets alone can be a deterrent for transit ridership to and from the games. This could be more of a problem for season ticket holders and maybe less for single game tickets. Now, there are arguments for the team's recent performance, but the issue can also be approached in the context of the current affordability crisis. It comes down to which income tax brackets can dish out enough disposable income to afford season tickets and even single game tickets. And generally at these prices, it's presumed that you have the financial freedom to pay for other luxuries that many other transit users may not have. If ticket prices do in fact end up being a more significant issue than team performance, consider what message that might send to a potential NBA franchise looking to expand or relocate to Vancouver. So I've spent a bit of time rambling, now let's get back to our SkyTrain ride review. Now we're still rather full on this eastbound service. As we pass by the arena, it looks like a bulk of the people have already left. So if you add everything up, that's around 35 minutes to clear around 18,000 people on all modes of transportation. Remember what I said about people heading downtown early to grab a bite? Here we actually see the exact opposite, with people just wanting to go straight home after the game. Heading past Joy Station, we actually see that we beat the track maintenance. And you can tell just by looking at the information sign just as the train is entering the station. This looks to be the last train east to King George using the regular tracks. After 10:30, trains have to single track on the inbound tracks to allow maintenance on the outbound tracks from Nanaimo to Joyce. And after that, it's pretty much standing room only as we continue east into Surrey. We get off at Scott Road where we parked at around 10:45 p.m. So in total, from the time we bought the parking ticket to the time we get to Scott Road, it was around 5 hours and 30 minutes. Now you can certainly get this done in less than that in many ways. I'll let you figure that out. So this is a comprehensive analysis using my knowledge on transit and sports to, try to combine two areas of self-claimed expertise to provide a balanced analysis on the correlation between transit and major sports. I haven't been doing this lately, so let's summarize the trip into a few key points. Number 1, the trip to the game was less crowded because we decided to eat somewhere before the game. And that's what we see in this video where we don't have everyone trying to be downtown exactly at puck drop. Number 2, overcrowding is inevitable at the exits. You have 18,000 people trying to exit at once instead of trickling out. And that was because this game, the Canucks sustained and pushed the game to a shootout. Number 3, at every 4 to 5 minutes both directions, the current setup is sufficient in clearing platforms efficiently. So this is straightforward as you have 400 to 500 people being cleared per train. And we have yet to see what it's like to review operations after a sellout crowd at BC Place. Number 4, not everyone is heading out east after the game. People are also heading out to Waterfront to branch out to Seabus, Canada Line, or other nightlife. Number 5, although riders may save a bit by taking SkyTrain, the frequency does not correlate with bus service. And we see this with the Excel sheet we pulled up. Bus service worsens the further you are from downtown, and it solidifies the need for park and rides, which is a point of contention discussed in many other places. Now that'll be it for this video. If you liked my analysis about transit and the Canucks, please consider subscribing to the channel for more transit related content. For those of you who came for the Canucks, and I'm sorry, the hockey YouTube scene is already saturated with so much talent, so I would rather focus on using my energy on making transit videos. Anyways, please like, comment, and consider subscribing. What do you think can be done to improve transit for riders heading into downtown for sports games and concerts? The first thing on my mind is to increase the bus services out east past 10 p.m. as that's kinda where people are after most games end. Leave your thoughts in the comments below and I will see you in the next one.